Hello. Okay. Hello. 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 Oh, the lawnmower is on. Oh, well. Hello. This is Carrie Hayes, and this is Angry Dead Women. My podcast today is featuring my friend Sam Costanzo, and we're going to discuss this and that. The lawnmower is very distracting. We're going to discuss
This is live.
Cheerio Meredith, and then I'm going to discuss reinvention with Adria Firestone. Please stay and join us. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, this was Sam Costanzo. Sam was the fifth and final engineer on Naked Truth or Equality, the Forbidden Fruit. And I owe everything to Sam's sticking with itness because he brought the project home and ended up doing the final mix. And what we have is a beautiful audiobook. I hope you find it at retailers near you. Thank you very much.
When you and I were starting to work together on this stuff, the way I was getting the inspiration was to just talk to you about the character.
Right.
You know, other times, like if somebody wants let's say a New York taxi driver or something, the old style. Hey, where you going, buddy?
Right.
It
Well, I was just thinking about Lucille Ball, and because her show had started out as a radio show, and I think it was called My Favorite Husband or something like that. But what was interesting about her as an artist was that when she would decide to move forward with whatever the material was, there was just these people were able just to drop any kind of inhibition in order to service the material
Oh yeah.
very, very quickly. I mean, it's very interesting to see how they just. My grandmother had also a breakout moment when she was an actor, and this was when she was probably about our age that this happened, maybe even older. Is that she went on an audition and she was supposed to play an inebriated old woman, and she didn't know what to do, and so she took out her dentures and she auditioned without her
And
teeth,
so she slurred a little, or
and she worked consistently. Yeah,
that's
she worked
fabulous.
consistently for the rest of her life. She did very, very well.
That what Mel Blanc's and this is, you might find this on YouTube. I think he talks about this. They
Right.
asked him to be a drunken horse or something like that, or a drunken donkey, and so he did the and he's doing that, and he's talking
Right.
in the Mel Blanc way, and between the two, he did it.
Right.
So your grandmother kind of did the same thing there. She came up with a mechanism to, yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yes. And she was a very correct person. I mean, she wasn't the kind of person who would be walking around doing diddly squat without her teeth in. I mean, she was a pretty correct lady. So, yeah. Think about it. It's really something,
that's
right?
funny. It is. It is.
So, this is the idea. This is the idea,
Mm,
Sam. And I would be very interested in your take on the idea, but this is the big idea. Every episode, we're going to discuss a woman who is no longer with us. So, a woman who's in history. And
and not angry.
this is going to be, well, we're not really that interested in women who were just a barrel of laughs the whole entire time,
Okay.
you know. So, Angry Dead Women has a certain rhythm that I like a lot, as opposed to Happy Dead Women. I mean,
Mhm.
Happy Dead Women sounds almost sinister. And I don't think we want to do that. I think we want it to be, um, how can I say, nuanced and
Yeah.
kind of fascinating and full of surprises. Anyway, so you are going to be my the man on my show, and you are going to ask me or discuss with me said women in history.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Um, Sounds fascinating. It's something I've never done before, but what the hell?
I know, neither have I. That's why I think it's really fun.
Somehow we'll figure this out, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Anyway, so, I thought just to the right person for us to practice on or for our, pilot, as it were, would be Cheerio Meredith, who was my grandmother, was an actress, but also was just a pistol of a person. With me is Adria Firestone, who is a personal coach, a motivational speaker, a former opera singer, and an all-around fabulous person. Adria, good morning.
Good
And
morning. You don't sound prejudiced at all, do you? Uh,
how you,
me.
where were you when
Oh
all of
my,
this started? Tell me
where?
about you and how you got here.
What happened is I walked on stage. I was modeling when I was 5. I walked on stage when I was 10 and spent 40 years of my life traveling the world. The world was my gift. It was also the place where I ran away to the circus because I
Right.
had a childhood that was let's be diplomatic about it this morning. It was challenging. Let's put it that
Sure,
way. Okay.
sure.
And until I was in Cordoba after so many years of performance, beginning to feel in my heart that I had no more to give. There was simply no more da 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 left. There just
Right,
wasn't.
right.
And I was in Cordoba and I was getting ready to go on stage as Carmen. She walks in about 20 minutes into the opera. And I was doing my yoga and I heard this voice. And the voice said, "This is the last Carmen you will ever do."
Oh my God.
I was horrified and stunned. It kind of, like someone punches you in the solar plexus. And I didn't know how to handle it. And at the same time, there was this incredible, peaceful knowing that you just heard the truth. And within 2 years, I had wrapped up all of the concerts. I mean, all of the concerts, the performances, and I didn't sign any more contracts. And I simply walked off stage. I didn't say a word to anybody. I just walked off. It was
Were you
stunning.
in a state
Tell
of
me.
grief? Did it create like this huge after loss, that this feeling of incredible loss that you were
At
closing that
first,
door?
at first, there was just oh, I can stop. I can stop running around the world. So there was this
Right,
moment of glee that was, oh, goody, I
right,
escaped.
right.
But then grief set in, which I don't think I took as grief. I was
Mhm,
so bewildered. And the
mhm.
question was, who am I now?
And you were how old were you when this happened, when you had to reinvent
50,
yourself?
50
You were
years old,
50.
50 years old.
Okay. I think
And
this is
that's
important for our audience to really
very key,
hear that, because
very key.
so much of what we think is that things end and that's it.
It's just
Not
beginning.
what now, or things end and so it begins. I think a lot of us don't grasp the "and so it begins."
I think you're absolutely right.
Tell me about "You Are the Artist of Your Life."
Okay, well, most people think when they see that title, I've been told, that has nothing to do with regular humans. You mean artists, you mean like performers, you mean like artists. And I say no, because we are all the artist of our lives. So I'm at this conference and I stand up and I say, I'm Adria Firestone. I just wrote this book, blah, blah, sat down. This woman comes up to me and says, "Oh, I love your energy. I just love who you are. Gee, I wish I could work with you, but I'm not an artist." And I stopped and I looked at her and I
Right.
said, "Yes, you are. You are the artist of your life."
Mhm.
And both of us stopped and she got tears in her eyes, then I got tears in my eyes, and I went, "Wait a minute.
Right.
This is something." So when I write books, usually the title comes to me first. So that's how that title arrived. And each page of You Are the Artist of Your Life, each chapter is only 1 page long. People like that it's short and pithy and to the point, and
Right.
that we have a canvas. that we choose our colors, we choose the design, we choose whether it's a canvas, whether we're working with metal, whether we're sculpting in wood, or whether it's marble. It doesn't matter. You are the artist of your life because you choose your colors and you choose your design.
Which is to say what? It's how you're going to fill your life with purpose, or how you will move through the day, or
All of the above,
explain all those
Carrie.
things to me.
What
Yeah.
the thing that you are the artist means to me is one word: choice. That every day when we get up, we get a chance, an opportunity to choose how we're going to approach the day, what we're going to do. We always have choice. Even when things happen to us, it is a choice in how we're going to respond.
That's right.
So, all of this arrangement that many of us would like to place the responsibility for our lives on someone else's shoulders, it's not true. It's not true. We are 100% responsible for our choices. And when you realize that, you realize, wait a minute, if I'm painting this canvas of my
Right.
life, how do I want this to look? Or do I like, how is that working for me so far? Well, oh, gee, it's not working. Guess who painted it? Guess who designed this canvas? Yeah, I did.
You know what's difficult is when you have someone in your life who's a good friend or a partner or something like that, and they feel resigned to their circumstances, that their circumstances are what defines them, and not their life spirit or their life force. And when you see someone who is in that place, because it can be very painful and sort of
Stultifying.
pernicious,
Yes.
because it happens quite slowly, and then all of a sudden, that person might really genuinely believe that they do not have a choice, that everything is obligation,
They
and
do
it's
believe that.
only obligation.
Yep.
Well, how do you advise that person?
I advise that person by saying, wake up. Wake up, and what do you want? And the first column of my program that I have worked out for the Wise Wild Woman is it's about knowing where you are. It's getting clarity on where you are right now,
Hmm.
not where you want to be, not how you like it or dislike it, but saying, this is where I am, and beginning to see the clarity of the fact that you made choices that brought you to this place. It's like waking someone up to, this didn't happen automatically. This didn't just descend upon you.
Right.
You made certain choices, and even when you didn't make a choice, you were
Right.
making a
Right.
choice.
We
And
had a
so
very
now
tough
you're
time
trapped.
in 2008. That was really a just a catastrophic period for
It
us
was a
in my house.
catastrophic period.
And
Yes.
and what was so interesting about that time was that it happened to us, and because of some of the choices that we had made or hadn't made, we found ourselves in the predicaments that we were then faced with.
Yes.
And it forced me to think a lot about my grandparents. And I didn't really know my grandparents to speak of,
Yeah.
but that they're living through the depression, or they're living through abject poverty, or being faced with abject poverty, and how were they going to deal with that? So apparently my grandmother, the one whose jowls I so wonderfully have inherited, she was an actor, and she lived in Los Angeles, and she had 4 children, and it was not unheard of for them to do what Judy Garland's mother, I think, had to do, which is where everyone had to put on all their clothes, and then in the middle of the night they had to leave.
And had to leave.
And the to have that kind of reality, and then you infuse your children with whatever values that they come away with. It's a it's very, very interesting, because I do believe that those who depend upon us are always watching. They're
Mm.
always watching to see how we're going to play our hand, how we're going to decide or not
Wow.
decide, or when are we going to call it quits, or when are we, it's
Hmm.
and that's even true in our life partners, that we're always watching one another because we want to know. It goes back to the theater almost. You want to know which is your position, where do you move, what you do next. And
Right.
it's quite something, because there is a certain accountability that we all have, which most of us would rather not, but we do indeed,
That's
particularly to
the
ourselves.
that's the interaction that happens.
Right, right.
And you may have someone who would prefer your energy not to be so exuberant, who would prefer you not to be so intelligent, would prefer you not to be so intense.
You
And
mean
it's
who just want you to shut
okay.
the F up? You mean those people?
Yeah, those people. You know them, don't
Oh, I
you?
meet them all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
And so we have to come to a place in our lives where we say, you know something, it's allowing yourself to realize that 100% of responsibility for who we're becoming, for the choices we're making, for the life that we're leading, or the canvas that we're painting, that we are indeed the artist of our lives. And my question is, why not make it a masterpiece? Why not?
Here, here.
Why
Yes.
not? I am holding up my Diogenes lamp and saying, walk this way, because yes, there is more. Yes,
That's
there is more. And yes, you can reinvent yourself and you can make midlife absolutely magnificent.
so. Where can a person find you, Miss Adria Firestone?
Ooh, okay. Well, one of the things that I would love to share would be a report that I have created which initiates change rather quickly. And I like that. So, this is called The Wise Wild Woman's Path to Rapid Change and Making Space for the Life of Your Dreams. Get started right now, and then you can have a 20-minute session with me and join our group, which is the Wise Wild Woman Speak Out, Be Seen, and Lead on Facebook, where we gather and we riot and we do all sorts of marvelous things to enliven and enrich our lives.
Now I'll let you lead the interview, and I'll try and be a good interviewee.
Boy, oh boy. So I'm Johnny Carson, basically. Okay. Oh
Yes,
wow.
and I'll be Ed McMahon.
Oh yeah. Oh, oh, oh. So all
Yes.
right. So I found Cheerio fascinating. I know of bit part actors. She was clearly, first of all, she's got a very kind and gentle face. Uh,
Mm.
I but you say she was a pistol. Did you know her, by the way, or were you born?
I met her twice, in my infancy. So, I think she'd been diagnosed with cancer,
Oh,
not long after I was born,
mm-hmm.
and, my parents, my family was living in New York, and my grandmother was in LA, and, so my mother flew out with me and my brother, who was 6 at the time, uh, to visit, and I don't know if my dad was present or not, and then, she visited again, I
Mm-hmm.
think when I was 6 months old, and then Cheerio died when I was, probably maybe 7 or 8 months old. So she died on Christmas Day.
Oh wow,
So
wow.
that was always a very sad day for my mother. Mm.
And I noticed her name, clearly a stage name, but her real name was Edwina. Is that right?
That was her middle name. Her first name was Lucille.
Lucille. Okay.
Lucille Edwina Hoffman was her birth name,
Wow.
and then she, married 4 times.
Oh my gosh. Clearly
She was an optimist.
a what?
An optimist.
Op- okay.
She wasn't afraid to wreak a little havoc.
No, yes, yes, that's true.
Right,
But
right.
I watched first of all, I looked at some of her credits here. I mean, she was
Mhm.
in the Adventures of Rin Tin Tin, Fathers Knows Best. She was on the Johnny Carson show.
No, she wasn't, was she?
Well, that's what this article says.
Was she really? Oh, we have to find that clip.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, geez. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
before it was the Tonight Show, apparently, according to this article that I'm reading.
Really? Wow.
77 Sunset Strip, the Jack Benny program. I mean,
Yeah.
your grandmother has such a rich set of what's the word I'm looking for here? Her resume is extremely
Right.
large. And by the way, she was on a Three Stooges movie. I mean, I'm a
Oh, yeah.
big fan of the Three Stooges right here. So
Yes. Yes.
anybody who's on the Three
Yes.
Stooges, I'm a fan
Right.
of.
Right.
So tell me, do you know how she got started in all of this? By the way, you
Well, there's a lot of legend.
okay?
There's a lot of legend, so I don't know how much is true. But, my grandfather, her first husband, whose name was Conde Mosley, he was a race car driver in the 1900s.
Hmm.
And, either he met her when she was living in Kansas City, Missouri, or he was also from Missouri. I'm not quite sure about where he was from originally. Some people have said Texas, and I may be completely wrong if that's the case. But he was a little bit older than she, and she had announced to her mother that she was going to be an actress. And her mother said, "Oh, no, you won't. Not with the name Kaufman. You're not going to." And so my grandmother turned around and she saw a book that was called Lucille by a writer named George Meredith, I think it is. And
Oh,
for a long time, my mother had said book. And so she became Lucille Meredith. And recently, my brother unearthed all of her headshots from when she was in her 20s. And an
oh,
aspiring actor. And they moved to Los Angeles. And at one point, there's a story about a party where her hat blew away and she went into the ocean with her, spectacular tea gown and to get her hat back. She was just that kind of person. And then she and my grandfather would break up a lot. And at one point, she was fleeing. She had my mother had a sister who only lived to be about 18 months old, or maybe only a year. Um, but she was fleeing my grandfather, and she got a plane. She hired a plane to fly her from LA to Kansas? I'm not quite sure. There's a cassette somewhere of my Aunt Luann recalling this. My Aunt Luann was much older than everybody else.
hmm.
And that was my grandmother's firstborn. And she had to go out on the wings and change the fuel while it was in mid-flight.
Huh?
How can that
How
possibly
can that?
be? Why didn't the guy just land? I mean, but this is all she was those kind of legends. And
Well,
she also was a musical prodigy as a kid. She didn't give the kids, her own children, music lessons because she thought you either have it or you don't. And somebody came across a letter that she wrote to John Philip Sousa asking for advice on instruction of one of my uncles on the trumpet or something like
oh
that. I mean,
God,
it was just a really, really colorful
my
person.
gosh, and you don't really remember her. You were too young, I would imagine, right?
Well,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was an
yeah.
infant, so no, I don't recall her.
So performing kind of runs in your family, then, doesn't it? There's a lineage of it.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, yes.
when did you first realize your grandmother was who your grandmother was? I mean, at a young age,
When
or?
I was about 9, when I was 9, I think, my father had a chat show. So maybe this is history repeating itself. He had a chat show on WNET, which was the public television station in New York.
Good evening for Roundtable. I'm Harold Hayes.
And it was at 7:30, I think. It was either 7 or 7:30, Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
And if we were good children, we watched the damn show.
Oh,
If we were home, there was no excuse not to watch the show. You were expected to watch the show.
mhm.
And the show was so boring. And if if I timed it properly, Andy Griffith or one of these other old television shows, McHale's Navy or something, might be on the other channel.
Rotten breath. Marion looks at the gaping hole in his ugly, drunken body and Johnny Moxie, you stink.
Oh,
And I might catch my grandmother on it.
cool,
So,
cool. Yeah.
so I would prefer to watch her rather than my father, which wasn't really politic, but there we are.
So, I
So that's
mean,
how I knew she was somebody.
Andy Griffith's show too? I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, she had a reoccurring role, yeah.
Played what? Do you recall?
Emma Watson, and then she has another name, Emma somebody else. And she was the hypochondriac, and I think she may have been a kleptomaniac. She was sort of this nutty character.
Thank you, Andy. Naughty deputy.
So, did you think or do you know, did she go to any kind of acting school, or did she just kind of, did it
I'm sure
evolve
not. I'm sure not.
evolved
She
on her
was,
own?
I believe so. She had 4 children, and her marriage with my grandfather broke up because he developed a gambling problem, and she and they parted company, and she was determined that she was going to make it, and she was going to make it either as a wit and a correspondent for some kind of newspaper or a magazine, or maybe become an editor in her own right. Or she was going to be an actor and she was going to be
Yeah.
successful. And she had put my Aunt Luann, her oldest child, on the stage, or very young, I think maybe 11 or 12. And Luann was a dancer,
Mhm.
and Luann's career flourished. And then she had her 2 boys, and Jean, the older one, went to school on the movie lot with Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland.
Wow.
And so they were very close school friends. And then I don't know what my Uncle Joe was doing. He ended up becoming a machinist. And then my mother was 17 years younger than Luann. So there was a lot of legend and speculation about that origin story too. So yeah, they were your classic Hollywood family, living on the periphery of genuine stardom.
So you had sent me a picture that has you in one half and your grandmother on the other half,
I know, and
and
we're wearing the same
you're
color.
wearing damn close to the same color, but more
I know.
importantly, I could see the resemblance.
Yes,
There is a resemblance. No, yes, no question about it.
big time,
And you're the
big time.
granddaughter.
Yeah,
There's no question about it. So a lot to be proud of there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I marvel at the fact that this lady had chops and determination, and her career, as she has her legacy that she has left, was really something that didn't get traction until she was nearly 60, or maybe 60. And that's what I am. I'm nearly 60. So I feel that there's some kind of very good positive precedent that she has created to show that it's not over when it seems to be over. And that, in fact, new beginnings and reinventing yourself and just going after things as you become closer to your demise is a more what's the word, joyful and compelling than it may have seemed 20 or 40 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a Hollywood expert, but I've seen a lot of interviews of people in their older years in Hollywood, and the older you are in Hollywood, the harder it is to get work, I guess, nowadays.
Unless that's your niche,
Yes, yes,
like
yeah,
Michelle Getty, or
unless they want a good character actor or whatever, right?
Right,
Uh,
right, unless you're my grandmother.
yeah, right, exactly. So,
So
so she did it, and
yes,
that's a wonderful thing. So you got a lot to be
yes.
proud of.